There are calls that fix your day, and there are calls that fix your life. When my phone lit up that night, I hadn't seen that name on my screen in 10 years. 10 years of silence. 10 years of waiting for a sound that never came. I stared at the phone so long it stopped ringing. That's when I realized I was afraid. Afraid that he might hang up, and afraid that he might actually speak. People say time heals everything. That's what they say when they run out of better sentences. Time doesn't heal what you refuse to touch. Time just protects the wound under a polite silence. My son and I hadn't spoken since his 18th birthday. What should have been a party looked more like an ending. We both said things that had too much truth and too much anger packed in the same words. He left with nothing but a bag and a sentence I still hear when I try to sleep. "You don't know me, Dad." After that, nothing. No texts, no holidays. Not even news from someone who knew someone who had seen him. When you're a parent, silence is the loudest sound you can live with. I tried to play normal. Went to work, paid bills, nodded at people who asked, "How's your family?" It's funny, when you fake normal for long enough, even your mirror starts to lie to you. Every year, I'd keep my phone charged on his birthday. Every year, I'd tell myself, he'll call. And when he didn't, I told myself, he must be busy. That's the acrobatics of denial. You keep jumping between hope and pride just to survive the fall. Once, I saw someone in a cafe who had his same walk. I followed that stranger for 3 streets before realizing it wasn't him. God, I felt so ridiculous. But that's what missing someone does. It turns you into a detective chasing ghosts. I never told anyone this before. I used to write him letters. Not emails. Real pen-on-paper letters. I never sent them. Just kept them in a box, under a pile of other boxes, like guilt hiding behind responsibility. Sometimes the act of writing to someone who isn't listening feels better than talking to people who pretend to. One of those letters said, "I'm not sure you'll ever read this, but I hope one day you'll hear me without words." It's strange how the brain records pain, like a playlist you can't skip. The call came on a Tuesday night, October 14th. I remember because that morning my car battery died. My coffee tasted like regret, and I had decided that life had officially stopped trying to surprise me. Then the phone rang. Unknown number, but with a city code I knew too well. I stared. The screen blinked. My throat tightened like before a storm. Part of me wanted to answer. The other part wanted to keep the silence sacred, unbroken, predictable. I don't know what won. Maybe fear, maybe love. I slid my thumb across the screen. "Dad?" The word hit me like a train made of air. No noise, just pressure, heavy and invisible. 10 years gone. And yet that voice, older, lower, but still his, felt like it had been recorded yesterday. I didn't know what to say. All the words I'd rehearsed for 10 years suddenly went shy. So I said the first thing that came out. "Hey, kid." Kid. He was 28 now. But in that second, he sounded 5. The conversation started awkward, the way you enter a house that used to be home. We talked about small things first, the trick safety net of small talk. How's work? Fine. You still living in? Yeah. Each pause was a cliff. Every word felt like testing the floorboards of a bridge that might collapse. Then he said it. It's weird talking to you. I laughed, a reflex laugh, but nothing was funny. It's the laugh of a man who doesn't know whether to cry or apologize. I wanted to jump into 10 years of updates, but he slowed me with just one quiet breath. Dad, I'm calling because Mom told me you were in the hospital last year. I froze. It wasn't serious, just a flu that lingered, but he didn't know that. And somehow, it took my mortality to make him remember I existed. I almost said, "You're 10 years too late," but I bit my tongue. That sentence had lived in my mouth long enough. Instead, I said, "Yeah, I'm fine now." Pause. Then softer, "But I missed you." He didn't answer. 3 seconds of pure static heartbeats. Then, a shaky laugh. "You still talk like a movie, Dad." I laughed too. This time, actually, for real. After that call, something strange happened. We started rewriting our history in small doses. Text messages at midnight. A voice note here and there. It's like we both needed proof that this new bridge could hold our weight. Sometimes his texts would be about nothing. A photo of his dinner, a meme. Sometimes I'd send him old pictures of us fishing, just to say, "Look, we once liked the same sunrise." But in between jokes and weather updates, there was a storm. We didn't talk about why he left. When we finally did, it didn't sound like an argument. It sounded like two scared people describing the same explosion from different sides of the street. He said, "You never listened when I needed you?" I said, "I thought toughness would make you safer." The silence after that sentence wasn't angry. It was honest. 10 years of distance had made space for empathy to finally breathe. The thing that started it, the real beginning, happened the night he told me he wanted to quit university to become a musician. I'd said something like, "Dreams don't pay rent." He'd said something like, "You don't get it." We were both right and both wrong. I grew up fighting to keep our lights on. He grew up wanting to switch on his own. That's the invisible gap between generations. One builds survival. The next wants meaning. I thought I was protecting him from failure. He thought I was attacking his identity. Both of those hurts, if you feed them long enough, grow teeth. The day he left, I waited by the door, thinking he'd turn around. He never did. And for a decade, both of us waited for the other to blink first. That one call didn't magically fix us. Movies lie about that. But it planted something, an awkward, hopeful seed. He called again the next week. This time, video call. My hands were shaking like the first day you hold your newborn, scared to break what you made. We talked for an hour about music, food, random nonsense, and then he said something that hit harder than any apology. I'm sorry it took me this long to forgive you, but I had to forgive myself first. I didn't even breathe for a few seconds. Forgive myself? That's what I had never done either. Parenthood has this secret nobody mentions. When your kids stop admiring you, you start doubting everything you ever did right. That night, I slept with the phone on the table next to me. Old habit, waiting for messages that never came. But this time, I knew they might. Over the months, we built our way back. Not through big confessions, but tiny normalities. I watched his live gigs online. He reminded me to drink water. We shared grocery complaints, real bonding, the quiet kind. One night, he sent me a photo, a stage, a guitar, a crowd, and a caption. Thanks for the stubbornness. It got me here. Turns out, the trait he hated most in me became the one that carried him through the worst parts of chasing a dream. Life has jokes like that. Messy, poetic jokes. A year later, we met again, for the first time, face to face. I arrived early, because of course I did. He was late, because of course he was. When he walked in, my body did something weird. My brain recognized the adult, but my heart saw the kid from the fishing pier. We didn't hug right away. We did that half-awkward handshake that becomes a hug by mistake. The cafe smelled like fresh bread and second chances. He showed me his songs on his phone. One of them was about waiting for a call that never came. He smiled. I guess it's outdated now, he said. I told him, maybe write a sequel. Later that evening, before leaving, he said, You know, I spent years blaming you for everything I hated about myself. I wanted to interrupt, but he raised a hand. But I realized most of what I'm proud of came from you, too. That's the kind of sentence that rearranges your heartbeat. Not loud, but permanent. We walked outside. It was raining gently, the cinematic kind of rain that cleans, not destroys. I watched him cross the street, turn, and wave. That image, I think, is what forgiveness looks like. One person walking away, but not leaving. If you're listening to this wondering whether you should make that call, the answer is yes. Even if they ignore you. Even if you're scared of what you might hear. Silence doesn't protect anyone. It just delays healing. It took my son and me 3,652 days to have a simple human conversation. And all it required was one call, 30 words, and 10 years of learning how to listen. Sometimes love doesn't need to sound like poetry. Sometimes it just sounds like, hey, you okay? People online love stories that end with miracles. Mine doesn't. It ends with something better, continuity. We still argue about music, politics, nonsense. But now, every argument ends with love you, bye, like a built-in safety net. I kept my old box of letters. Last week I showed them to him. He read one, laughed, then cried. That's when he said, "You should tell this story, Dad." So, here it is. And if my story makes one person pick up their phone tonight, then all that silence wasn't wasted. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It lets the future finally start talking. And maybe that's what that call really was. Not a phone ringing, but time itself deciding to give us one more conversation. Thanks for listening. Go make that call.